Do you want to be food, or do you want freedom?
Then let's fight for it!
We're free! Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy.
4 legs, good. 2 legs, bad.
No animal shall wear clothes.
Huh? What? We're show pigs.
And all animals are equal.
We should move into the farmhouse, so the humans know we're in charge.
You are about to become my new best friends. Pigs and humans working together. I like the optics.
Oh, we love the optics.
You're wearing clothes!
Would you look at that, I am.
Everything's different, but we're still friends.
All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
What if a revolution fought for freedom and equality produced a tyranny crueler than the one it destroyed? And what if the new tyrants weren't generals or dictators, but pigs, walking upright, sleeping in beds, and drinking whiskey in the farmhouse they once liberated? This is George Orwell's Animal Farm. Barely 100 pages long, and it tells you almost everything about how power corrupts. To unpack all that, I've got someone with me who just finished reading the book, like an expert. So let's start with the man behind the book. Who exactly was George Orwell, and why does his life matters here? Well, to understand why Animal Farm is so devastating, you have to understand the man behind it. George Orwell was a pen name. His real name was Eric Arthur Blair, born in 1903 into a British colonial family. He turned against his own class though. After years as a colonial policeman in Burma, he came to despise imperialism and oppression. The decisive moment came in Spain. In 1936, Orwell went to fight fascism in the Spanish Civil War and was very nearly killed, shot through the throat. But what marked him most was the betrayal behind his own lines. He watched the Soviet-backed communists turn on and murder their fellow revolutionaries. He came home a convinced anti-totalitarian, yet remained a committed democratic socialist. His enemy was never socialism itself, but the lie that tyranny could be justified in its name. He wrote Animal Farm in 1943 and 1944, and the timing made it dangerous. The Soviet Union was British wartime ally, so a satire mocking Stalin was unwelcomed, and it only appeared in 1945. 4 years later, he distilled the same warning into 1984, before dying of tuberculosis in 1915. Pardon me. Animal Farm was never an attack on hope. It was a warning about what happens when hope is hijacked. So, I hope that answered your question. Keep going. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So tell me more about the story Animal Farm. What is it actually about? Of course. So, Animal Farm, this is the cover, is on the surface a children's fable. However, underneath, a precise allegory of the Russian Revolution. It begins on Manor Farm, run by the drunken, neglectful Mr. Jones. One night, an old boar, old Major, who stands for Marx and Lenin, shares a vision. Mankind exploits the animals, but one day they will rise up and rule themselves. Then he dies, leaving his vision, his idea behind. The animals soon drive out Jonas, rename the place Animal Farm, and set down 7 commandments. The most sacred being that all animals are equal. The clever pigs take charge, but 2 are rivals. Idealistic, eloquent Snowball, and ruthless, scheming Napoleon. The 2 embody Trotsky and Stalin. When Snowball proposes a windmill, Napoleon unleashes a pack of secretly raised dogs and chases him off the farm. From there, the ideals rot step by step. Napoleon rules alone. Snowball becomes a scapegoat, blaming for everything. And a smooth-talking pig named Squealer, the mouthpiece of propaganda, rewrites history to justify each betrayal. The pigs move into the farmhouse, drink alcohol, and trade with humans. And every time a commandment is quietly alerted. At the heart of it is Boxer, the loyal, endlessly working, powerful cart horse, whose answer to everything is "I will work harder." The ordinary working class made flash. When he finally collapses, Napoleon sells him to be slaughtered and spends the money on whiskey. By the end, the pigs walk on 2 legs and dine with humans, and the other animals can no longer tell pig from human and from men. Yeah. Okay. Was there a passage that stood really up to you? Yeah, definitely. There's one line that says it all. In the final image, the 7 commandments have all been erased and replaced by a single line on the barn wall. That sentence the whole novel comes down to. I read it exactly as Orwell wrote it. Quote, "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others." End of quote. I find this line unforgettable because it's a perfect contradiction. More equal is logically impossible. And that is the point. In barely a dozen words, it shows how those in power twists language until it means the opposite of what it says, dressing up raw privilege as principle. Wow, fascinating. Okay, last question. Why was this such a powerful reading experience for you personally? Yeah, honestly, this is the part that matters most to me. The first thing that struck me was the sheer craft of the allegory. Orwell called it a fairy story, and that label is a trap. The gentle, innocent form disarms you and then quietly delivers one of the most merciless analysis of power ever written. But it's more than a clever puzzle. Nothing hits me harder than Boxer. He's the most decent figure in the book. Strong, loyal, endlessly hardworking. His whole creed reduced to "I will work harder." And it's exactly that loyalty that destroys him. When he can no longer work, the leaders he trusted sell him to be slaughtered for a few bottles of whiskey. That scene stayed with me for days because it shows something disturbing. A corrupt system doesn't only crush its enemies, it also devours those who serve it most faithfully. What unsettled me most, though, is how little the book feels like history and how much like a description of now. Orwell's real subject isn't pigs or even Stalin. It's the manipulation of language and truth. Squealer doesn't rule by force. He rules by rewriting reality. The commandments are changed overnight, and the animals slowly come to distrust their own memories. Nobody announces that freedom is gone. The words are simply adjusted until no one remembers what freedom was. Reading that in an age of fake news and post-truth, I felt a genuine shock of recognition. Orwell understood decades early that whoever controls the words controls what people even think. What he would later call newspeak. That is what changed me. After reading it, I no longer listen to political language the same way. I notice the euphemism. I notice when leader blames one convenient enemy for everything. The book didn't make me cynical. It made me alert. And that's the paradox I keep returning to. This is a book simply enough for a bedtime story, yet deep enough to study at university. Its power relies in the tension between that plain fable-like surface and the dark truth beneath. Orwell never wastes a word and never raises his voice. And that restraint makes it land even harder. It quietly shows how freedom is lost. One small compromise at a time, and trusts you to be disturbed. That is why, for me, Animal Farm is far more than a set of text. It's one of the very few books I finished knowing I'd carry it for the rest of my life. This is my answer. Wow. Just wow. That was amazing. That is a great place to end. So, take one thing from this. Don't read Animal Farm as a story about pigs or even about Russia. Read it as a mirror. Orwell isn't only describing a farm long ago. He is describing how power really works everywhere still. Give it a try. Read it. It will change the way you see the world. I'll promise. Have a great day.